joining us from the Tremonti's Meat and Seafood Studios at his house. Ronnie Rantz here in Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Studios. Freshly back from Hollywood, California, where we went a little quick in and out. Got there Friday, left Sunday, made it back to LeBears in time for the Jaguar car giveaway. Congratulations to Brian May, who won a Jaguar vehicle last night. And so many thoughts on what happened this weekend over at the Rose Bowl. Going to give you a quick takeaway on the trip. Tommy and I will talk about the game. TK, the oldest man on TikTok, and meatandpotatoes.com had a good weekend with the picks. So you need to follow him if you want to. If you were a loser this weekend, and many of you were, then you need to be a winner and follow Tommy's picks since he's red hot right now. We'll get into the LSU game. Did Coach O embarrass himself in the program going into the stadium? That's debatable. We know LSU embarrassed itself on the field. Tigers, of course, one of 8 teams ranked in the top 25 that lose. Do we need polls? We'll get into that discussion and a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere. Oh, by the way, BAMA, clear-cut #1 team in the country, not even debatable. We'll be back with more sport. Oh, well, we don't have the video on this computer, so we're going to stay with you right here. Normally, I hit the LeBears commercial right now, but the laptop's in the shop getting fixed up. We're in the old one. Don't have the spot on me right here. So we'll just tell you, LeBears is open now. They opened back up Saturday. They were closed for a week. They're open back up, going by there 24/7, other than when they have the curfew. I ate at 18 Steak last night. The Stadium Sports Bar and Grill is open. Great spot to watch Ole Miss tonight. Ole Miss and Louisville. Go by Stadium Sports Bar and Grill inside LeBears Casino in Baton Rouge. Check out the game. Hey, it's Labor Day. You might want to go by there, put a little action on the line. By the way, you'll be able to bet at LeBears. They're going to have their sports book window opening up a week or two, a couple weeks coming up. You'll be able to go by LeBears in Baton Rouge and play some action on some games, and then you can hang around if you want and watch games at the stadium. Be a fun time. All right, TK, your just quick snap takeaway on what you saw on Saturday.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. I was strong on LSU for a month and leading up to the game. It's about the only pick I missed this weekend, but wow. I mean, Ronnie, a lot of fair questions, offense. I'll start with that. You got an offensive coordinator who never did it before. It's easy to be an offensive coordinator from your sofa. It's tough when the bullets are flying, okay? But, I mean, they did nothing. They couldn't call a play. They ran 71 plays, 33 times the play clock got to 5 seconds or less. I mean, if I'm at Orgeron, I'm on the headset saying, hey, call a play. I don't care if we lose 2 yards. Call something. And then, of course, UCLA's plan was to blitz, blitz, blitz. No adjustment to that. No screenplays, no draws, no rollouts, nothing. No jet sweeps trying to slow up that blitz. And, look, I'm just going to be Jake Peetz. He crumbled on his first attempt at being an offensive coordinator. He couldn't handle it. He did not do well at all. And the tempo never got going. There was no rhythm. And again, it's easy for me to sit here Monday and say all that, but he's got hired to be the offensive coordinator. He'd never been one before. Now, over time, maybe he's going to become a great offensive coordinator. I don't know that, but he failed miserably Saturday, and Coach O didn't do anything to say, hey, we got to make a change here. Run a screenplay, run a reverse, do something to slow up this blitz. I credit UCLA. They had a plan to blitz, blitz, blitz. It worked, and they didn't back off of it because LSU didn't do anything to change it. And then on defense, no tackling. They can't, Derek Stingley needs to, learn how to tackle and quit reading press clippings. A lot of blown assignments on defense. Yeah, they had some plays in a couple series where they forced 3 punts in a row at one time. They weren't as awful as the offense was. And, can't run the football. I mean, Coach O, everybody laughed about his little thing going into the stadium. I'm assuming you saw it. I'm understanding that the AD and the president of the university not real happy about that. You don't do that when you're a college coach, but that's Coach O. So now, look, they're not going to lose to McNeese. They're not going to lose to Central Michigan. So they got a couple of weeks to get the ship right before they got to travel to Mississippi State at the end of the month. And there's a lot of questions out there, and they're all very fair.
Before I get into talking about the game, I want to talk about the trip first off. This reminded me so much, Tommy, of the trip to Wisconsin, where, you had lots of LSU fans that made the trip because they knew this is basically a once in a lifetime deal. LSU's never going to play in Lambeau Field again, most likely, or not in our lifetime. So, and an opportunity to go to a place where the weather is fantastic, when it's so freaking hot and miserable here. And that was the biggest takeaway for me was, oh my God, now I understand why people live in California. Forget all the politics and the $5 a gallon for gas and everything else, and the fact that it might fall off in the ocean one day with a good, strong earthquake. But the weather is unbelievable. The scenery is unbelievable. I mean, I sat there about the second quarter of the game in the stands, Tommy. Didn't have a lick of sweat on me. Wasn't craving a drink because I was dying of thirst. Like, it was just so wonderful and relaxing. But so I thought, that was cool. A lot of people took advantage of it. This Sir hat is a little keepsake for those of you that don't know. There's a Bravo channel, which probably many of you that watch this show don't watch. But if you go to the Bravo channel, there's a show, Vanderpump Rules. And I'm a big fan, and they have restaurants and bars in LA. And so I went to Sir, which is one of their restaurants, which, by the way, stands for Sexy Unique Restaurant, by the way, is what that stands for.
Okay. I wanted to mention I was on the radio last night with Dan Canterbury and Coach Skip Bourbon, Hold the Rope, now back on every Sunday night at 7. We talked about how great it was to see all the LSU fans, all the purple and gold, the pregame stuff. So many people traveled to support the Tigers but aside from Hurricane Ida and everything else we got going on, Tiger fans deserve a huge tip of the hat for getting out there in large numbers. And, now some of them today are thinking they wasted. I saw some guy said, I posted 15,000 to watch Coach O shatter my dreams. But, you're going to get some of that. It's overreaction Monday. But a huge tip of the hat to the fans who showed up in thousands and thousands of numbers.
Well, the thing I'll say about it, just to kind of paint the picture for those that weren't there, is – first off, the weather's fantastic. Now, the Rose Bowl itself, the stadium is 99 years old. It's going to be 100 next year. It wasn't, I guess, as impressive as you would think, but it's still, for me, I'm an history fan. It was very historical. Yes, the concession lines were long. It's an old stadium with one level, and they don't have enough concession stands. Think about Tiger Stadium. They got multiple levels, concession stands all over the place. They don't have that at the Rose Bowl. So if you decided you had to get a chicken teriyaki bowl, which they were actually selling, and that was the longest line of them all, if you just had to have your chicken teriyaki bowl, then you missed a quarter of the game because it took that long to get one. But instead, it was the field's magnificent. The history of that stadium, and there's been Olympics there and World Cups and too many great college football games to mention. But UCLA, they turned out. They didn't for the Hawaii game. They turned out for this one. LSU fans turned out. It was weird not having the band. I think it's ridiculous that LSU didn't send the band. You mean to tell me they can raise millions of dollars to fire coaches, but you can't raise, I don't know, $100,000 to send 50 people in a band to go play? I thought that was ridiculous that a big booster or there wasn't some, GoFundMe set up or whatever to send the band. That was a big missing piece, not having the band there, at least in some degree. The tailgating was awesome. It was all over. It was very hot during tailgating because, the sun is on you. But the difference between hot here and the hot in LA is if you find shade, you get under a tree, you get under a tent, then you're fine. But the tailgating scene was awesome. And look, UCLA was just happy. Their fans were just happy to be there. They had never seen anything like this. They weren't taunting LSU fans. They were just, happy to be there, throwing the frisbee, and playing cornhole and all that kind of stuff. So the AD, the athletic director, got on the microphone on the field during a commercial and welcomed fans back to the Rose Bowl because unlike LSU, they had no fans last year for their games. So he was like, hey, we're glad to have fans back. And they were just happy to be there, and yet they ended up whooping LSU's ass. Everything was magical up until the time the game started. The whole scene outside, around town, the restaurants, the tours, the seeing the Hollywood sign, seeing LSU fans take over. I talked to the owners of Sir and Tom and all these other restaurants. They said for 2-3 days, LSU fans everywhere. But the game itself, Tommy, much like in Wisconsin, was disappointing.
And there's a lot of disappointment, and I think rightfully so. I mean, you can make a long list of things that need to be fixed. Coach O said after the game, we got a lot of things to fix. Yeah, you got a long list of things to fix. A lot of people are going to be like, okay, let's see what we got here. The national media is now saying Coach O's on the hot seat. Scott Rabelais wrote an article in The Advocate about that. Ken Trahan wrote about that in New Orleans at Crescent City Sports. I think it's fair to say now time will tell. It's one game out of 12 and possibly a bowl game, but there's a lot of fair questions and criticism going on right now. And I think it kind of starts with the coordinator stuff. Coach O had Linehan and Pelini last year. He didn't like it. Woodward gives him the green light, buy him out, get rid of him. Then he goes and gets two more guys that in one game couldn't pass the test. He got Matt Canada thing didn't work years ago. I mean, there's some fair criticism about that. And, you've never been a coordinator before. You line up against UCLA, who's probably a little better than some people thought, including me. And we'll see how they fare in the Pac-12. But, it's cause for concern, I think, for LSU fans. And don't get misled by the fact they're going to beat McNeese and Central Michigan. Central Michigan's not terrible, but LSU's going to beat them. And then you got the next true measuring stick is going to be in Starkville against Mississippi State a couple weeks down the road.
It's clear that Chip Kelly, this guy was a kind of a groundbreaking coach at Oregon, what he did with that program and got him to the national championship, and the way he ran that tempo offense and did a lot of creative things. Chip Kelly, and then the NFL, they tried to bring him in. Obviously didn't work there, but he's a brilliant coach. He's an innovator. He's got more plays than you do, any other coordinator. But Chip Kelly took Durante Jones to the woodshed. Durante Jones, the new coordinator for LSU, Chip Kelly out-schemed him left and right. And then all that shows up is in the statistics. When you have 9 completions and almost 300 yards passing, that's all you need to know. They had guys running wide-ass open, and they weren't, superstar burners or anything. That was just Chip Kelly plays beating Durante Jones, who he and his defensive team were not coached up enough, not prepared enough, didn't expect it, didn't teach it well enough, they didn't practice it well enough, whatever the case may be, whatever the excuse. Chip Kelly won that battle in a big, big way. And, I underestimated Chip Kelly on the other sideline. I did, going into the game, when we're talking about the game and the point spread, who we thought we were going to win and cover and all that kind of stuff, I did not give enough credit and didn't think about, wait a minute, they've got a veteran coach over there that's a damn good coach, that's one of the best college coaches out there on that other sideline, particularly X and O in offense. And I didn't give him enough credit, and that's my fault. That's why I'm a loser on that bet. Thank God for Alabama first half lines, but I definitely lost big on LSU because I bought into -2.5, thought LSU and SEC and all that bullshit was gonna be the difference. Instead, Chip Kelly proved he's pretty good.
All right, Ronnie, I got to back us up a few weeks, okay? I'm going to toot my horn here, but about a month or so ago at the Walk-Ons in Bruley on Sports Shorts Radio, I told you one of the best bets of the year would be Oklahoma in the first half line. They covered the first half line, and, yeah, I was on that. And obviously they didn't cover the game line, but they covered the first half line, like I said a month ago, got that one right. Man, you remember me saying that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other day you scoffed at me when I said Florida State plus 7.5. You kind of were a little questioning mark. But, next week I might not get anything right. I know how it goes.
Well, you did great on the Florida State bet. Louis liked that one, by the way, even before the game. He's like, I like Tommy's 7.5 on there. And
so did Rachel. So did Rachel.
Yeah, I did bet you. Rachel Goff, she was a winner. I did bet your 7.5 because you've been red hot, and so even regardless of what I thought, I went with it. So I did. I won $100. Thank you, TK. But was the thing that I scoffed at or like I questioned on the bet was, of all the games that you could have picked, you really liked Florida State plus 7.5, and that surprised me because I just thought they've been so bad lately. And you know, I think we as gamblers oftentimes, too many times, put too much emphasis on the emotion of something. You know, like, oh, you know, they're going to honor this team, or somebody died, or they're playing for something. I just think sometimes we put too much emphasis on that. But clearly, you were right. You thought they were going to get some Bobby Bowden love and juice out of it, and they did. They almost
also I had Georgia plus 3 on meatandpotatoesusa.com. So, you know, hey, but again, I'm smart enough to know it could be completely the other way next weekend, but we're going to keep plugging. We're going to keep trying.
All right, let's get back to LSU for a minute.
Okay.
The day starts with Coach O. Well, first off, it's easy to be Monday morning quarterback, and that's what we are. So let's get to it. Coach O, on what's your takeaway on now we've got two sort of off the field incidences that took place in Hollywood. One, the picture of him walking on, I think it was Thursday or Friday, around town. I think it was Friday, walking around town with his latest girlfriend. And they're just going for a walk. I mean, Coach O walks and jogs, you know, every day. Okay. And he brings his girlfriend with him, and he's walking around the city, and boom, somebody snaps a picture and it goes viral. Is that a big deal?
It's a big deal when you lose, I guess. Huh? You know, I didn't read much into that situation. You know, I mean, you know, if he's got a girlfriend, he's got a girlfriend. You know, somebody did say they're 5-6 without Kelly, and they're like 45-3 with Kelly, but I'll leave that alone. But that thing didn't bother me as much as the next thing you're going to talk about.
Yeah. I want to say that, and it leads right to the viral video that that WAFB's cameraman shot as Coach O was walking into the stadium with his security detail and everything before the game, and he was being heckled by a UCLA fan, and his reaction was to, "Hey, don't you bring yourself in the stadium, and you in that little sissy little shirt, you know, threatening to whoop his ass." There was a part of me when I saw that video, and it went viral real quick, even before the game. And oh, by the way, WAFB was, you know, Jacques Doucet and his cameraman were read the riot act by LSU prior to the game, by the way, not after. Prior to the game, they were not happy with them posting that. They felt like that was unnecessary, blah, blah, blah. Hey, man, in this world of sports, in this world of coverage, and everybody's got a camera and everybody's a reporter, and I mean, like, you just can't do that. But that said, let me get back to this, and that is, LSU knew what they were getting when they got Coach O. Okay, Coach O has been who Coach O has been all his life. He's had issues in college, legendary stories about being a wild and crazy guy at Northwestern State. He's had issues as an assistant coach, as being a wild and crazy guy in bars and out of bars and all that kind of stuff all his life. This guy is a D-line coach, nutbag, crazy guy. That's what LSU fans love. That's what LSU fans wanted. They wanted Louisiana's own, going to whoop your ass in the swamp, you know, got the funny accent, you know, loves LSU with a passion. But then you want to change him? It's kind of like if you vote for Trump and yet you're shocked he's Trump. Like, you know, he's not going to change. Like, he's not going to become more presidential and not say things. No, that's who he's always been. This is who Coach O has always been. That's what you hired, LSU. That's what you loved, LSU. And now all of a sudden you lose some games and now it's not as cool. I mean, come on, man. Like, that's your guy. You're either with them or you're against them. I don't want to see people jumping ship on him now. But don't try to bottle him. He is who he is. He is the coach that's going to yell at a fan and going to tell him, "I'm going to whoop your ass." Like, but it's all fun and games if you win. It's just not fun and games if you lose, plain and simple.
I don't blame WAFB for posting that. I mean, it was newsworthy, obviously sports newsworthy, and it got like 80 million views or whatever it was. And, you know, if LSU wants to get on WAFB, well, it's got to start with Coach O. Now, and you just made the point at the end of your little thing there. Let's just say LSU won 38-27 instead of losing 38-27. That viral's getting 5 more million views today, that video is. So it's all about, it's that thin line between winning and losing and happy and sad. You know, Ronnie, fans do a lot of things, but one thing they do is overreact. Okay, that's on the list. And I think they're overreacting to a lot of things. But the Edo video, I had people saying, man, you don't see Saban do that. You don't see Dabo Swinney do that. You don't see Mac Brown do that. You don't see Kirby Smart. Well, maybe they do it, but it wasn't on video. Because I would think some of them guys have popped off once or twice in their day. But, the bottom line going on with Phil just put, I think LSU's got a ton of talent. I think there's a disconnect with the coaching. I mean, these guys just can't, seem to get it right, or they didn't get it right Saturday. Now they got 2 weeks to clean it up against inferior opponents and get ready for an SEC game, which is very important, against the Mississippi State team that kicked their ass last year. And State had a big comeback win against a decent Louisiana Tech team the other day. So there's a lot of question marks that are flying around in the air, and we're going to get those answers. I'm going to use the famous Ronnie Rantz quote, let it play out.
By the way, Tiger Bait saying that, Coach O would be giving you a hard time with your little pink shirt.
No, this is a Tremonti's, okay? We got Tremonti's shirt, We're in the Tremonti studio. By the way, they're back open.
Bring your little pink shirt over here.
By the way, they Tremonti's Meat and Seafood back open tomorrow, as is Court Street Cafe over in Port Allen. A little Labor Day stuff today for their employees. Both will be back open tomorrow.
Craig Schilling with a good point. He's saying you want to coach with that attitude, which the players had the same mindset. Because look, I'll tell you, I was on the flight over and was talking to someone real close to the program, and they had a conversation with Coach Robinson, right? The legendary USC coach who's now an analyst for the LSU football team, and he's kind of somebody that Coach O really leans on. And they were talking about how big the offensive line is. Like this was before the game, but man, that offensive line is so big and massive for LSU. They got such big people and all that. And Coach Rob said, yeah, but they're just not nasty. And this was a couple of weeks ago that he said this. And so clearly they played like that. We heard reports that the offensive line was struggling a little bit at times in the scrimmages against that LSU defensive line. That's when we should have known. The defensive line was Swiss cheese, gave up 7 yards a rush. The offensive line got no pressure. It was just, they looked fat and slow. The UCLA defenders looked fast. Forget everything else and scheme and guys running wide open in the middle of the field. Offense and defensive line, which is where it's won. We get so caught up in all the other positions. But when you look at Alabama and their dominance since Nick Saban got there in 2007, it's because of their trenches. Their trenches are better than your trenches 95% of the time, 99% of the time. And, yeah, they got all kind of other good pieces and all that. But they win number one with their offense and defensive line. Georgia, that offense and defensive line right now is up there. LSU's offense and defensive line, not up to par. That is a 6-7 win offense and defensive line, and most of those wins are going to be against crappy opponents.
Well, Ronnie, I saw on Twitter last night that there's been an NIL, the name, image, likeness. There's been an offer for the entire LSU team from Charmin toilet paper because they're the softest.
The thing that stood out for me on offense was obviously 1 yard rushing in the first half. You knew there was a problem. They never even really tried to establish much of a run. They just came out throwing it the whole time. If LSU's going to play the dink and dunk stuff, Max Johnson has to be much better. He was not accurate. I mean, if you're going to run little 5 yard turnaround choice routes and stop routes and things like that, he's got to be able to put the ball, in this area. You got to be able to catch it here. And Max Johnson right now was just nervous. He was rattled. He was stiff. Everything was mostly high, or he spiked a couple. I mean, he missed 2 touchdowns that were game changers. He ran past for over 300 yards because they threw 1 million times. He had 3 touchdowns because of Butte and all that. But Max Johnson didn't play well enough, and you don't have another choice. Miles Brennan isn't there. And you wonder who would have won that job. If Max Johnson would have played like he did, would you have turned to Miles Brennan? When Miles Brennan had the hot hand, you don't have that option. And then I felt like in the first half too, Tommy, Max Johnson either on his own or by design didn't run a whole lot. Because of course they're trying to keep him healthy. It's a different mindset than Max Johnson a year ago. where he's playing to win and he's playing, he was just letting it go, and you'd get some yards running out of him. You didn't see any design runs. You didn't see him really scramble it all into the second half. All of that was troubling. And, oh, by the way, LSU's receivers, all 4 and 5 stars, when they had pressure on them, when they had contact, they didn't make the catches.
Well, UCLA didn't stop blitzing Johnson, so he got hit more than a quarterback normally gets hit in the game. And even Chip Kelly said that after the game. That dude took a beating and he just wouldn't quit. Threw off his back foot all day. He never stepped into a throw. That's because I blame the offensive coaches because they never countered his blitz by UCLA. And I think he threw that backwards pass. I mean, he'll never do that again, I'm sure. But and I'm sure the minute he did it, he realized how bad it was. Said he was trying to throw it away. So I put some of the blame on Johnson. You're right. He missed 2 touchdowns. He missed Palmer up the seam that one time. But I put more of it on the coaches because they didn't do anything to counter the blitz by UCLA, and UCLA didn't stop blitzing because LSU didn't counter it. It's like Ronnie, I remember a little bit I coached high school football. If you ran the ball off right tackle and you picked up 6 yards, what'd you do? You ran the play again. Yeah. You run it until they're going to show you that they can stop it. Well, LSU didn't do no screens, no draws, no rollouts, no jet sweeps, nothing to counter 5, 6, and sometimes 7 guys blitzing and coming all out. It just was not a good night. And again, I blame the coaches for not adjusting, and I blame Coach O for not telling the coaches to adjust. I mean, he was watching the game. He had the best seat in the house. He's got to be on the headset saying, Coach, you got to run something. And then, again, they wasted 7.5 minutes at the line of scrimmage. I did the math on if you averaged 15 seconds wasted on the time clock times the 33 plays and the 71 plays. I mean, call a play. You had a month. Then you had a week in Houston. You were an NFL team in Houston. No class, no girlfriends, no BS, no distractions. And then all of a sudden you go to LA and it looked like you didn't prepare in August or September to play a football game.
Well, Tyrann Mathieu called out the team on social media. He said it didn't look like they had any passion or fire, and that definitely looked to be the case in the stadium when I sat right behind the LSU bench. And I'll tell you that they would come off the field, they'd sit down in their groups. I didn't see there wasn't any body there wasn't any body on that team that looked enthusiastic other than, oh, I'm on the bench, now I'm in the game, I'm back to the bench. Offense goes in, offense comes back to the bench. There was never a players only meeting. There was never there wasn't a clear-cut leader. There wasn't that linebacker that gets all the players together or anything. It looked like a lack of leadership, and that was really there. They rotated in at left tackle, rotated in at right guard. The offensive line didn't have any consistency. The pile, you want to see it move forward if you're the offensive line. It was stagnant or moving back. They got beat in every facet of the game. And Chip Kelly. I apologize to Chip Kelly and LSU fans that thought, and when I said I thought they would cover, I underestimated how good Chip Kelly was. I did not take him into account when I thought about this game enough. He outclassed these LSU coaches. He had his team prepared. He had creative play calls and formations and just absolutely won the battle of the coaching staff by a lot.
Well, here's the thing, Ronnie. Everything you've said, I've said, and everybody's written about, talked about, interneted about, tweeted about, most everything that's been talked about is correctable, okay? Does it get correct is the question. Here's what I think. You got to go play McNeese Saturday, and you got to try to score 80 points, and you got to try to throw a shutout. Okay, I know Coach always runs kids the quarterback. That's not going to matter when they kick it off. But I'm saying you got to correct a lot of things, have some fire, have some life, like you said. You can't just show up when that team on the other sideline who had a lot of transfers, had a lot of fifth-year players, had even had a sixth-year player starting on the defensive line. They came ready to play. They played with a fire and an intensity, and they got after it on every single snap. They played the next play. So, hey, like Bob Seger would say, LSU, turn the page. Okay, you can't change what happened Saturday, but you must make changes with what's going to happen going forward.
Carl the Cat saying that the UCLA coaches took the rookie coaches to school. That's 100% the fact. The thing is, Tommy, is that, there's always debate on should you play that layup game like a McNeese first and then go play a UCLA second or something like that. It's always a fun debate. I was talking to Hanny about this, Charles, on his show, and he's come around to liking that good opponent week one because it makes the offseason more focused and locked in. The other way around, you get the nerves out, you get the bad play calling out, you kind of work out a few kinks taking on that preseason game like you do in the NFL, right? They play 3 preseason games for a reason. They're trying to figure out who the starters are. They're trying to get people used to playing again after a long offseason. So there may be some said to it. That said, it doesn't matter. LSU's locked in. They're opening up with a bunch of big boys, most of this decade. But clearly this group could have used the McNeese week one to try to work out some things, to get some nerves out, to get some alignment issues out and that sort of thing. It just didn't work. Tommy, this looked exactly like last year. This defense looked exactly like last year. They've got new coordinators. They've had another year. They've got a couple of new players. They've got experience. Didn't matter. The same issues that this defense had last year early on against Mississippi State and others, they got exploited again. Same thing. And, oh, by the way, nobody's interested in tackling in that secondary.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. The tackling was awful. And, they don't tackle enough in the fall, and they don't want to hit, and they don't want to put people on the ground and all of that. But, maybe this team needs more of that. Going back to the, high school without a pandemic and a hurricane has jamborees. They have that dress rehearsal. They get to get a few things out, even though it's basically a half a game. College football, if they could figure out that it would make money, they would do it. But it is what it is. I mean, they knew this schedule for what, a year? They knew they played UCLA all August. They knew they played UCLA and spent a week in Houston getting ready, focused supposedly. And it just did not work in any aspect. Give UCLA a lot of credit, but it's a lot of fair criticism that can be thrown at LSU in a lot of directions.
The LSU had the better roster. They lose. They got out-coached.
Didn't have the band.
Run blocking was horrible, and they didn't move the pile. I mean, the defensive line was Swiss cheese. They're 5-6 since they won the national championship, Tommy. 5-6, this LSU team is. What do you think this season's going to look like, and will Coach O be the head coach next year?
Whether or not he's the coach the next year will depend on the next 11 football games. I don't see them firing him during the season, okay? I think that's crazy talk. I think they're going to win the next 2 games, and they're going to be 2-1 when they play Mississippi State on the road. Then Auburn comes to Baton Rouge. So let's say that after 5 games, once you get past Auburn, then you can make some pretty good statements as to whether or not he's going to be the coach next year. State looked good, Auburn looked good in their openers. LSU did not look good. Again, a lot of the things are correctable. If every player needs to look in the mirror and say, hey, I need to make a commitment to do everything I can to help this team win the game. They need some leadership, whoever that might be, offense, defense, I don't care. Somebody's got to grab somebody by the face mask every now and then and say, wake your ass up. Wake up. It's time. We're playing a game here. This is, the season's going to be over before we know it. So, but Coach O's on the hot seat. I think it's okay to say that right now. When you look at the big picture, and Ronnie, here's the big question. I threw this out and it got a lot of reaction on social media. Here's the biggest fair question I can ask. The question is, what year was the fluke, 2019 or 2020? Everybody wanted to say 2020 was a fluke. We had pandemic. You only had 10 games. You had players opting out. You had other issues. It was a fluke. It was an aberration year. Now, if LSU goes 6-6 this year, maybe 2019 was the fluke. And the once in a million times that something happens, all as great as that season was, and you can never take it away. They won the national championship, greatest college offense in the history of the sport. But now it's a fair question to say, what year was the fluke? Time will tell. As Ronnie Rantz would say, let it play out.
I'm the one that thought 2020 was the fluke. I mean, I'll say it. I thought with all the excuses and things going on, I thought 2020 was just that throwaway year, but clearly it's not. I mean, the way they played and looked against UCLA was the same the way they looked yet last year on defense. Different coaches, same confusion on defense and offense. Max Johnson wasn't good enough, and the offensive line didn't improve a lick from a year ago. So clearly 2020 wasn't the fluke. This is a trend, and I think the LSU fans and administration know it. Here's the thing, Tommy. They're going to go 3-1 in the out of conference, okay? They got, ULM and McNeese and Central Michigan. They'll go 3-1 out of conference. What do they do in their 8 conference games, okay? If they can go 3-5 and get the 6 wins, which would get them in some crappy bowl game, maybe in Shreveport, if they go 6 wins, where do those 6 wins come from in the conference where you just think, okay, yeah, automatically, because there's no Vanderbilt on the schedule, okay? So we think at Mississippi State, which, by the way, Mississippi State lucky to beat Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech blew a 20-point lead with 12 to play, and Mississippi State won by 1. So we think, okay, at Mississippi State. We think probably Auburn at home is a game that we like. We think at Kentucky, even though Kentucky's pretty good, is a game that we like. We think we've got, but then after that, you're not going to beat Alabama. You're not going to beat Texas A&M, I don't think. Arkansas is so much improved. Ole Miss is a team that everybody's the hot pick, and we're going to talk about that. They play tonight against Louisville, and we'll get the oldest guy on TikTok's take on that game. They got Florida coming in here. I mean, 3 wins in the next 8, Tommy. I mean, it is going to be hard in 8 conference games. I mean, 4-4 is where they need to be to get to 7. I think they're at 7 wins. Coach O keeps his job, and he's on the official hot seat next year. I think they win 6 games this year, Tommy. They're passing the bucket around, seeing who wants to pony up what to replace him. Now, what may keep Coach O, if he only wins 5 or 6 games or something this year, is we just had a hurricane. The state is broke. They just lost a bunch of money last year with COVID. They may just be like, hey, we got to ride this puppy out. We ain't buying out nobody. Okay. They just had to pay Pulmonary some money, to retire. So, I mean, this may be a situation where they just eat it regardless of what happens. But 6 wins, in most years, he'd be gone. 7, he keeps his job, and the fire is hot underneath.
I agree with that. Scott Woodward doesn't play around, and he didn't hire Ed Orgeron, and the new president, Tate, that was not a part of the hiring of Ed Orgeron on campus. And, he wins 6 games. I don't think he's the coach next year. Okay. I think if he wins 7, it'll be a question mark, as to whether he stays, and then it might become a financial decision, as you accurately pointed out. But, hey, let's let it play out and see what happens. I think if you're an LSU fan, you still got to support Coach O. You support the team. You support the program because he is the coach. So you got to be behind him, and you hope he can make the corrections that you and I and many others have talked about since Saturday night. It's been all over the internet and every Facebook Live and radio show, TV show. Let's hope the corrections get made.
People talked a lot about on a lot of different shows, Coach O, the way he acted going into the stadium and the way that, are there distractions off the field when you see pictures of him, off the field. The guy is getting $7 million a year, Tommy, to be the head coach at LSU. Okay. He's already made millions of dollars being the head coach at LSU. He's got a contract that pays him $7 million. And if they want to buy him out, he's going to get even more gazillions of dollars. Okay. LSU and the fans and the administration can say whatever they want to Coach O. The bottom line is, by the way, Paulo saying the buyout is $21 million. I think he said something like that. Here's the thing. Coach O's going to do whatever Coach O wants to do. He is already past the point of worrying about getting fired. He's won a national championship. He's made millions of dollars. His legacy is set. If they want to get rid of him for whatever reason, they're going to owe him millions of dollars, unless they can get rid of him for cause, which, is yelling at a UCLA fan cause, is walking down the street with your girlfriend getting a picture, through LA cause. No, it's a bad look. It's not cause.
Ronnie. But what might be cause is all the Title IX stuff and the lawsuits and that Darius Geis story, which have not gone away. They might be on the back burner, but they have not gone away. All of those issues that he's going to have to deal with in a legal situation whenever that runs its due process and runs its course. So I'm just saying maybe that could end up being cause.
It could be a way that they use it to negotiate a lesser buyout, right? Hey, we got all this stuff. We owe you this. We want to pay you that. Let's settle somewhere in the middle. But the crazy thing is, Tommy, is that if you'd have asked me and I'd have asked you in 2019, before that Texas game in Austin, which I was at, which was the hottest game I've ever been to, but it was also one of the best games I've ever been to. If you'd have said to me, hey, we're going to go LSU's going to go 15-0. They're going to be the greatest show on turf you've ever seen. You're going to have a Heisman Trophy quarterback. But, hey, for the next 5 years, you're going to be trash. I'd have taken it in a heartbeat. LSU fans would have taken it in a heartbeat. So everybody needs to slow their roll a little bit. Would you rather Coach O going 9-3, 9-3, 9-3, or would you rather him going 15-0, 5-5?
Well, Ronnie, I told this story many times. I can remember being on the radio in Baton Rouge right after 2000 or so, and people were saying, hey, I'd trade all 5 baseball national championships for 1 in football. I remember that got some legs one summer.
Right, I remember that. I remember people
and we trade all 5 of Skip's titles and we get 1 in football. Well, guess what? Nick Saban and that crew delivered 1 in football, and you didn't have to give up the 5. And then Coach Maneri got another one in baseball. So slow to roll a little bit, okay. But I think when you look in the short-term future and the long-term future, I'm being repetitive here, but there are a lot of things that need to be corrected, and there's a lot of fair criticism and fair questions that you can't look at a guy and say, you can't say that. No, you can say that because it's accurate.
Yeah. I think this LSU team, in my opinion, Tommy, is staring down the barrel. I think they're going to find a way to win 7 games. I thought this was a 9-3 team. The over-under was 8.5 going into the year. I thought when I factored in 9 wins, UCLA was one of them. So now you take that away. Now you're down to 8. And I think they're going to lose a game that I didn't expect them to lose. That means they've got to win 4 games in conference. I think they're going to, I think that this team, I think Max Johnson, he played better in the second half. He clearly had some nervousness and some jitters. This was only his 3rd start, by the way. Okay. The offense is going to get, they're going to figure some things out a little bit better. The defense clearly is going to figure some things out a little bit better. They're going to get some players back over time. I think they win 4 games in the league. I really do. I just think the talent, when you've got so many 4 and 5 stars, it's going to come together. Look what it did against Florida and Ole Miss at the end of the year, where the offense really got going and things started happening. I do believe that this team has that in them. They're not just going to be a bunch of dogs. Arkansas, played bad in the first half. Mississippi State should have lost. I mean, Auburn got going. Look, they played a cupcake, so it's hard to tell there. Florida coming into Baton Rouge, that's different. LSU won in the swamp last year. New quarterback. They've got some off-field issues and things themselves. So I think somehow I believe in the program. I believe in the talent. I believe in people do get better as the season goes on, particularly young quarterbacks and young players. I think LSU finds a way to get to 7 wins, Tommy, and I think he does survive, but it's going to be boiling around him, and LSU's going to pay the price in recruiting.
Yeah, well, I agree with everything that you said there. I mean, it's all good points, valid points, and time's going to tell on how that does play out. I mean, it's nobody likes to lose, and winning cures a lot of things, cures most everything. We'll just see how all of this stuff ends up playing out, and hopefully there's a big crowd Saturday night when McNeese comes to town. I mean, McNeese lost to a Division II school the other night. They're not going to beat LSU. Florida. Yeah. Yeah, so they're not going to beat LSU. So, but it's time but LSU's got to worry about LSU, not McNeese on Saturday night. Yeah, they got to make improvements, show some fire, some leadership. Like I said, try to score 80. Defense needs to work for a shutout. Don't even give them that cheap field goal at the end of the half. You got to work. You got to become the best football team, significantly improved at week 1, week 2. thing that everybody talks about. And I think that's what LSU's got to do. And then, Central Michigan's a little better than McNeese, but LSU should still win that game.
Real quick, Tommy, quick takeaways. Alabama, my God. I mean, bet the first half line on Alabama, people. If you're not, you're missing out. It's like Bitcoin a couple years ago. Just take the money. Bet Al. Don't look at the line. Don't worry about the line. Don't worry about the opponent. Just take Alabama first half line every game. And, yeah, they might lose one every once in a while, but you're going to win 10 of 12, 10 of 11, something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, the Miami quarterback won't be popping off again anytime soon like he did. Bama, they got 6 new coaches too. So, it's not, we putting it on the LSU coaches with the Bama coaches, but they got players, okay? Lots of players. And Bama, as of this morning, they're the best team in the country. And it's going to be, can somebody beat them? And I guess your first thought would be Georgia because they shut down Clemson, who's not bad. And, it's we got to see how that's going to play out. But right now, I think, the national championship game the playoff game is in Indianapolis this year. I think Bama fans are getting some reservations this week.
They should. By the way, Georgia finally getting over the hump, right? I mean, Georgia, with that win over Clemson, giant win for getting them into the playoffs. Their defense obviously was spectacular with 7 sacks.
And scored the only touchdown.
Yeah, and scored the only touchdown of the game. I think that, Georgia, clearly the team in the East, Alabama, the team in the West, it sets up Georgia an opportunity now with that win over Clemson. They can even lose a game and probably still end up in the top 4 because Clemson most likely is going to win the rest of them. So big win for the SEC. SEC, other than LSU, was the embarrassment of the league. Vandy. I mean, they lost to Eastern Tennessee State or something, but 8 of 25 teams in the top 25 lost, including the Raging Cajuns, who lost by 20. I lost that bet. They were a 9-point dog. Thought they would play well. Tulane covered, which shocked me. I didn't think Tulane would cover on the road. It was a 7.5, I believe, was the line.
30.
Wait, Tulane was a 30-point dog?
Yeah, but I bet the first half, Oklahoma minus 18, they were up by 20.
Okay. Yeah, Tulane lost by 5. Give them credit. They were down big in the second half, kept fighting, and only lost by 5.
They were that far from picking up a first down at the end of the game with a minute to go, which would have kept that drive alive. Now, obviously, field goal wouldn't have worked. They had to get a touchdown. But, in the world of college football, one thing this weekend shows you never know. And you talk about 8 teams losing. And if Florida State would have hung on with Notre Dame, that would have been 9 teams losing. But Notre Dame did win last night. Didn't cover, but did win. So, I don't know if we should have preseason polls anymore, although it gives people like you and me plenty to talk about in August. But every year they seem to be very inaccurate and teams overrated, teams underrated. Going to be some new teams in it this year. And that's a question. LSU, I think they're going to be – they could fall out of the poll. If they're in the poll, they're going to be between 20 and 25.
Brady, this is how we know. They looked so good against a quality opponent, absolutely dominated. By the way, I don't need to see Alabama play to know that they're going to be in the top 4, right? We know, just pencil Alabama in the top 4 every year. But when you watch them play and you see that young quarterback, who's probably going to be the Heisman Trophy winner, by the way, Alabama was clicking on all cylinders. They were polished as could be. There was nobody else that looked as impressive against a quality opponent as Alabama did. Georgia, as good as they looked, didn't do anything on offense. Georgia's going to have a great defense and all that. But Alabama is the best. They're so balanced. It's incredible what Nick is doing. And, by the way, Nick Saban getting inducted next summer into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame up in Natchitoches the last weekend in June, the same city, the same area that Coach O played at Northwestern State, by the way, next year. TK, tell us about Tremonti's Meat and Seafood.
Well, Tremonti's Meat and Seafood will be back open tomorrow. They had a lot of people got stuff for the game on this past Saturday at home. If you're going out tailgating, they got everything you need for your tailgate. You just tell Tremonti how many people you got. He'll get you set up with crawfish pies, meat pies, fish, shrimp, boudin balls, boudin wraps, cake balls. They got it all at Tremonti's. Be back open tomorrow. Court Street Cafe will be open tomorrow as well. Don't forget my podcast, Talking Sports with TK. Going to have a bunch of episodes this week. And there's a pick right now available at meatandpotatoesusa.com for tonight's contest between Ole Miss and Louisville. Meatandpotatoesusa.com, sports consultants. Go check it out. I think you'll like it. And we look forward. Well, we're going to be back Wednesday, Ronnie?
We'll be back Wednesday right here on
because Coach O meets with the media tomorrow, so that'll be plenty to talk about.
Yeah, Coach O, 12:30 press conference Central Time. I don't know if he'll say anything or not. He didn't really say anything post game. He just put it on himself, but still, we'll have some sound. And of course, obviously, a big week for the Ogeron family. He'll be going up against his son, the starting quarterback at McNeese. That's a great human interest story. Unfortunately, both the tough week for the family because McNeese lost.
I want to thank Derry Beckwith and for sitting in with me on Sports Church Radio this past Saturday at Calandro's Mid-City. It went great. Derry did a great job. I know he's going to have a role with Sports Church Radio going forward. I got a lot of reaction compliments to the radio on Saturday, and we look forward to people listening and telling everybody about it going forward. I think, if I'm correct, this Saturday we'll be at the Stadium Club at the LeBaris Casino.
Yeah, we'll be there from 10 to noon.
Come on out, folks. Come say hello.
By the way, great breakfast at the stadium. They open way before we do.
Might you return the breakfast sandwich review?
We will. 100% we will do a breakfast sandwich review.
Because we had a lot of requests for that the other day. And I said, we can give you a donut review, but Ronnie's the breakfast sandwich review guy.
Yeah, check it out this Saturday. Come see us. Great place. By the way, LeBair's great place to meet the friends, family, and all that. Park. They got free parking all over before the LSU game, and then you can consolidate your car or take an Uber or catch a city bus, whatever, to the stadium from right there at LeBair's Casino. We'll be out there Saturday, 10 to noon. Joel, Tommy, myself, Derry Beckwith, come see us. Until Wednesday, have a great one, everybody. Don't worry, LSU football will be back.
Like and share. Like and share this video. Please like and share.
Yeah, pound that like and share button. We appreciate it. That's how you pay an entry fee, is just by liking and sharing this video. Thanks. We'll see you Wednesday, everybody. Have a good one. Sports Shorts presented by